Good grief. I didn't think I'd actually be able to finish this, but I actually did it. I have now completed the arc that basically set the stage for Jojo going forward. So welcome to my review of Jojo Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, both the trip to Egypt arc and the Egypt arc.
Then every step forward will always be a step closer to home.
So step on up to the place. Need to face what can spread on into the light of us. Step on up to the place. 'Cause this ain't no game. It's time to make history, yeah.
Now it may be surprising, and I know it might be shocking to most people, but I'm actually a pretty newbie when it comes to JoJo Bizarre Adventure. As I said in my first review, I only knew the series from like some of the memes, references. I knew of stands like back in early 2000s, but I didn't understand the series outside maybe a few memes. And this was before the anime really started to become a thing. It didn't start to become a thing until like going into the 2010s. As well, if you could know, this was kind of before the anime began, that's where the popularity of JoJo started. So, this review is going to be about the first two halves, both halves of JoJo Bizarre Adventures Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. As we saw with the end of Part 2, we saw a much older Joseph Joestar, who's heading to see his daughter in Japan. He really does not like Japanese. Of course, don't worry. Some of that xenophobia or how he is about Japan is very light. It doesn't last that long. So the first episode opens up that he's going to visit his daughter, Holly Kujo, because her son, Jotaro, is in jail. And your first introduction of Jotaro and Holly and their interaction and their dynamic is Holly is very worried and cares a lot for Jotaro. Jotaro is very much, he has that delinquent kind of personality. Portrayed very well by Matthew Mercer in English, and Daisuke Uno, I think I'm correct on that one. No, I don't think so. Well, I know someone plays who. Someone does play Jotaro, but I will re-look this up. I had it right. It's Daisuke Uno. So the best way to describe Jotaro before you really get a weird impression of him is that he's kind of has a delinquent personality. He will get into fights. He will dine and dash if he doesn't like the food, and he will tell off a teacher if they get on his nerves. But don't get the wrong idea that Jotaro is a bad person, or he's a bad character. And also, I will kind of preface this, please do not put Jotaro in your weird gender equality bullshit. I don't know why, but I'm just gonna get that out of the way. So, the reason why Jotaro's in jail is because he's being possessed by an evil spirit, and he decided to put himself away, for his own safety. Of course, this evil spirit sometimes is able to grab things for him. And so he's actually having a almost cozy time there. Until of course, Joseph Navdal finally, Muhammad Avdal, who is also a friendly, accompanying companion for Joseph, comes up to basically clear up what's going on. And explains why what's really going on, and that Jotaro is not being possessed by an evil spirit, but he has manifest a stand. A stand is a kind of representation of the soul. Everyone who has like a strong will can manifest a stand. Of course, the stand started kind of not that long ago. Or at least, in some sense, they only really start to appear some time after after Dio's sealing, or they start to become more awakened after Dio, the main villain of Part 1, returned. With a little persuasion, and by persuasion I mean getting to a small fight, they were able to finally get Jojo out of the cage, outside the jail cell, and Jojo obliged. Joseph reveals a little bit about Stans and a little bit more about what's going on, and reveals that the reason why their Stans have started to appear is actually more to do with the fact that they're all connected. They're connected to their not only their great grandfather Joseph, Jonathan Joestar, but also the fact that his body is being used by Dio Brando, or now he's known as Dio. And how they know that is that every single Joestar of Joestar lineage, from their biological parents to their children, all have a star-shaped mark on their person. This marks them as a Joestar. If you always see that mark, that person is a Joestar. That's also why a certain person is a Joestar, despite him not being connected to the Cujo family. He's connected to Dio. But I'll get into that later. Well, I'll get into that when I get to Golden Wind, by the way. Which, good luck me getting there. I have a long way to go. I'm gonna be starting Diamonds Unbreakable next week, and I have a long way to go on that one, so trust me. My funny, silly commentary has a lot to do of where I can watch it. So, of course, Jojo's return to school, and we get more of his kind of respect for women, but I wouldn't say it's like that major. We find out that Dio is, of course, is targeting the Cujos, and sends Kakuin, a young boy, another stand user. Oh, I should also kind of explain this part now, but I guess I should. The theme of the stands going for this arc of JoJo Bizarre Adventure are themed after the tarot cards, and the second half they're themed after the Egyptians. If it should be one or the other is a topic of another day. So after a fight with Kakuin, who Jojo saves, they learn that, well, he really is back, he is really targeting them, and that there's a curse on Holly. Holly also has a stand, but because she doesn't have that will to fight or that will to hurt people, she's too kind-hearted, her stand is killing her. And the only way they can lift this curse and stop her being killed by her own stand is they must go to Egypt and defeat Dio. So, Jotaro, whose tarot card is a Star Platinum, Joseph Joestar, whose tarot card is the Hermit Purple, Ahmad Abdul, whose tarot card is the Magician Red, and Kakuin, now head free from Dio's control, who has the Hierophant Green, the Force set off to Egypt. And it was a very long journey, meeting friends and meeting new allies and villains alike. So the thing about now, I can kind of tell you this a lot, is that you can tell that Part 3 is very flawed, and it really takes a long time before Araki gets his groove into the story. There are rules he understands that he does forget. There are some things that you can say that, okay, makes it up as it goes along, but that gets a lot of writers. And there is a lot of, you got the rules, how the rules stands, and who has one matters. So, on their journey, of course, I should also talk about the opening for Stardust Crusaders. There are two, obviously, because they're two halves. The first opening is Stand Proud, which I do love that song. But my favorite song, obviously, has to be End of the World. Because when I heard that song, that was just before I started watching Stardust Crusaders. I don't know, something about that song I just like. Like, it's a visual, it's how the song sounds. This song by the first three main, like, couple singers of Jojo Bizarre Adventure. The second version with Dio, I'll get to that later. And, of course, the first ending of this Stardust Crusader is Walk Like an Egyptian, which is actually a real song. You can tell there's a lot of, like, 1980s, like, influence, you could say, into like, the endings, you know, because you got, that song really do fit the feel of a series that sets in the 80s. So, on their journey, of course, on the journey, they start to run into their usual, like, fights with some of Dio's followers. They defeat them, well, they die, they all mostly die. And of course, they meet Pomeraf. Pomeraf is his card is Chariot, Super Chariot. After a fight and freeing him, he reveals that his mission is actually looking for the murderer of his sister, and his murderer has two right hands. So he goes along with them on a journey. Pomeraf is kind of more so the comic relief, but like most comic reliefs, he started to slowly grow its character. So don't mind Pomeraf a little bit. On their journey, they start to also run. During some of their journey, they run into an orphan girl named Anne, who. Now, a bit of fun fact: she was originally supposed to play a bigger role, and actually develop her own stand, but because that concept got scrapped, she's just more of a tag along for most of the journey, up until the Wheel of Fortune. After the Wheel of Fortune fight, and she goes home. She has absolutely no idea afterwards what happens to her friends. And we don't know what happens to her going into where we are now in Jojo. So we don't know if she's around, we don't know if she's alive, we don't know if Jojo ever meets her again. So, like I said, probably the most strangest thing will probably come out is that if you ever wondered if you think that Jojo's brother is all memes and just feminine muscular men, this series is gruesome. Like, some very, like, gory kind of scenes that, you know, it's hard to believe it. Like, besides the fact that Kakuin, who controls a nurse, stabs someone in the goddamn eye, let's talk about the fact that a gorilla basically was ready to sexually attack a girl, I think, 13-year-old girl, and actually was falling in love with her. Yeah, that happened. And I think I saw that image before I saw this part. And I was wondering where it's from. So, during the journey, basically the formula of the first half is the followed. They would enter an area, find an enemy stand user. The enemy stand user would do some type of their tactics would be very difficult to defeat. Jojo's own company would defeat them, which mostly Jojo. Jojo has probably the most fights, obviously main character. But Abdul and Pomeraf, Abdul, and Kakuin do get their, like, at least one fight. Like, they get at least one, like, victory at least. And you find out that Dio has hired some very strange people. Like, how do you find a baby stand user? An old hack whose son who's very somewhat loyal to you. And how do you find all these people? To be fair, I guess you can say it's more. I guess you can say it's just more of a Well, how do you have someone like that? So, I guess the best way to put it is, what was my favorite like fight in the first half with the tarot cards? I would say my favorite battles. Let's see. I loved it. Palmer's introduction. You get to see a lot of how he fights. Let's see. I have to. The Empress was pretty good. Like, this was really kind of like a lot of people I see comments really thinks that just because Joseph's stand is not like a fighting kind of like stand power, he makes him weak. But this really showed that Joseph's best skill. I mean, Joseph's best skill is he uses his brain. Like, he may be now in his 50s or so, but his best skill has gotta be when he remembers to use his brain. And he was actually able to use it. Let's see. Another fight I really enjoyed. I guess I could say I enjoyed the Moon and the Strength battles. They were pretty good because, one, we could see a little bit of fighting in the water, and Jojo ran away to outsmart even a monkey. I think another battle I enjoyed, I guess I'd also say the death. Like, I knew that there was a stand knew that there was a baby, but I didn't think how scary that it was gonna be. Like, especially after we put Kakuin in the focus for a little bit, and he gets his, like, he was the only one who remembers. Now, some of the stand users will all die. I will kind of give you I will say this. The baby doesn't die, because obviously killing a baby would be messed up. Whole Horse is still alive somewhere out there. And some are not dead, just like some are not dead, like some aren't even dead, they're just like out of commission. Like the High Priestess, she's probably still alive just without teeth. So there's also a moment where Avdol is dead, and they go along without him for a little while, but he's actually recuperating, but making sure that Deal's followers don't know he's still alive or not. And so for that, I think that's around the time when they meet up with Anne again. But that's when she does not know that Avdol's dead, or she doesn't know what happened to Avdol. So each, I think if I would say this, like I think that like Judgment was like the last one. So Judgment and High Priest were the last ones. And what probably one of the more like disturbing like moments I would say when it comes to the tarot card battles would have to be Yellow Temperance. He of course he had to be Kakuin, and this is where you see you've probably seen before the cherry scene. Where Kakuin just doing something strange with the cherry. But it was like, no, he was moving the cherry, he's like messing around with the cherry in his mouth. Yeah, that actually happened. And this is right. I think if I remember correctly, I would say a majority of the fights were beaten by Jojo, but some were beaten by Kakuin or Kakui, Avdol, I usually say Police Judgment and fight with Chariot, with Silver Chariot. And that is really kind of like the main gist of it. Now, I guess what else we can talk about, because there's a lot of main parts about the trip to Egypt. I guess the one thing is that it's very cool to see a lot of these places, and a lot of stuff start to make a lot more sense. And I think the biggest thing I enjoyed of the first arc, the first half of it, is the journey was fun to watch them go on this big adventure. I think when you look at the Crusaders, I guess we're going to call them, I think you enjoy the fact that they all get along pretty well. They all have a good chemistry to each other. And Jojo is, you can tell, is slowly kind of growing as a character. Like, despite how he acts, he actually does care for others. Like, you can tell he's slowly kind of seeing other people as not more nuisances, but friends. And slowly you're starting to see that relationship. So I think another fight, I guess you could say that while Poparev was mostly comic relief, like his whole trying to go to the bathroom, his whole goal was finding the murderer of his sister. After that, his main goal is to continue helping defeat Dio, as it was Dio who did control him, and he does also want to make up for what happened to Avdol, also letting Avdol come back. Judgment was, again, the second to last of the tarot cards, and they ended up kind of doing a pretty good job of defeating every single one. Each fight was pretty interesting, and doing some crazy stuff that, again, don't get established more in later episodes. Like the lovers was basically fighting inside of Joseph to find that stand, and fights like, let's see, another fight I really enjoyed or was pretty creative. Fights like the Judgment, the Justice, the old hag. That was pretty creative of Jojo using Star Platinum to suck up the old hag's stand to make her suffocate. So after that, after the defeat of every of the enemy stand users, which is about, let's see, 7, 9, let's see, 10, let's see, 7 assassins, and yeah, they beat everybody except for Whole Horse, who comes back again. They finally reached Egypt. But of course, Egypt is still a long ways to the location of Dio. So, of course, to pad out time, I know, bad, I guess some people, Dio brings in more of his followers to help him. And this is where we fight some more interesting creatives, and we get our second opening in the world, and then our 6th member of the Crusaders, Iggy. Now, Iggy, he doesn't do much. Like, shockingly enough, Iggy is just mostly a dumb dog half the time, and has only like 3 battles in the whole entire series, compared to any up in the second half. And a lot of it just being just a dog that just does stuff, and he doesn't really get a chance to really do much or get time to really shine, which sucks because you're supposed to care for Iggy, but I guess because he didn't get a lot of screen time until the fight against Pet Shop, it's hard to say if you really care for him or not. Iggy's okay. I think Iggy you start to care for Iggy during his fight against Pep Shop, but you understand that he was kind of just recruited to help him, but he didn't want to. He just wanted a normal life. So it's understandable why he feels this way. But he still wants to actually, he's still fighting for his own life.
私に指図しないで年下のくせに
待っていたぞ
So, yeah. Of course, we get some quite a moment. We had a stand user that was blind, so he uses he uses like the vibrations in the ground to kind of send attack. We also had some pretty creative stuff happen with things like these two stands that both Pomerev and Jotaro were fighting, and Avdol and Haku were fighting. Jotaro was fighting, which were a very creepy guy who feels only way to deal with his enemies by turning into fetus, and also a situation where Joseph and Abdal's bodies became magnetized, that they were put in very awkward situations. But crushed a woman, but did crush a woman. By the way, this woman's also in this game I'm playing right now. I'm actually playing JoJo's Adventures Eyes of Heaven. The moment I started getting into Stardust Crusaders, and I saw this game was on sale on the big in Japan sale, I said to myself, okay, I gotta get this game, because, well, if I'm now literally a JoJo fan for life now, I might as well. I think another stand-up, but there's some battles that didn't involve fighting and had to involve about using a little bit of wit and strategy. Were the two brothers that they fought, was all about kind of was more about kind of playing games with them just to see if they could win. So this dealt with more kind of was putting Jotaro in more of using his brain more than just his fist. Oh, don't worry, he gets a hit in with the second brother later. We also get the most, I guess you call it the Common Relief Cleanser for the Common Relief kind of cleanser episodes. In the form of the two brothers, who, despite the fact that one brother can basically his book predict the future, and his brother can turn himself into his face to other people. Sorry. They were more the Comic Relief, as they kind of basically screw up their plans and get beaten up, and get put in the hospital, or basically almost put into like injuries. In this case, being but shockingly enough, they've got enough that they were actually popular enough to get their own goddamn ending. And I was so shocked I would listen to that ending on Spotify. I didn't understand what was going on. It was kind of crazy. I guess I should talk about the second ending, actually. The second ending is called Last Train Home, which is another song I was surprised of once I was getting to part 3. Now, like I said, these songs are, 80s inspired, so these songs are actually official songs. Now, if you watch this on Toonami, you probably saw like a 30-second version for both of these songs because of copyright. Because they don't want to get in trouble using them, but at the same time, they are important songs. So the two brothers, and also Horhurst and Madara, have their own kind of like crazy ending. But I guess the best way, I do enjoy that because it was quite creative, and they created two versions of that instead of just a copy paste. I think it really just shows that just the craziness that David Productions did for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure of having these crazy ending for the brothers and Horse and Madara. Of course, you know, like I said, as we get closer and closer to Dio, you can feel the humor is starting to slowly wind itself down. So, remember I mentioned Iggy? So by the time they were finally made to Cairo, Iggy has this fight against Pet Shop, a bird stand user with a bit of an ice fiend. Iggy ends up finding the location of Dio's whereabouts, but ends up getting into a very, very tough fight against this thing. To the point he had to chew up his own paw and took a lot to beat him. This really was at this point made Iggy's resolve stronger, as he didn't care about the mission or Dio. He just wanted a normal life. But once that fight happened, he realized, okay, they need me to help get the Dio. So he does swallow his resolve, which is right weird because this is the only two episodes we actually hear him talk. Actually, we hear him like once talk again when he killed Billie Jean. The statues are messing with the layout of the mansion, but that's it. That's his only fight. And then we come to Cool Ice, Vanilla Ice, who is the one who kills both Avdol and Iggy. But Avdol was like a brump, and Iggy was he ended up risking his life for Pomeroth. Of course, Pomeroth defeats Vanilla Ice, as Vanilla Ice became a vampire, and because of that, he had the weakness of a vampire. So, finally we come to the final battle with Dio and the Crusaders, which was 3 parts, well, about 4 parts, really, for the fight against Dio, which is probably as much as the final battle against Cars, but I think it's like 3 parts. Which is like 3 parts. So, I'll make this one brief. You know, we got the infamous, "Oh, you're approaching me." We got the Sawado. We got what happened to Kakyoin, which I knew their deaths. Like, I knew Kakyoin, Abdon, and Iggy's deaths before coming in, so I knew what was going to happen to them prior. Because look, trust me, I can be shocked with some things of each part, but when it comes to deaths that, you know, it's not that hard to look them up, I can find out a few things. Hell, I think I already know what happens to Jotaro in part 6. Anyway, so of course it was slowly but surely, everyone was able to find out what Dio's stand was, what it was, the world, and it was just slowly but surely them finding out just how to beat it. And of course, Jojo finally gets my take on Dio. This was the man who put this family in so much grief. This was the man who put this curse on his Holly. This is the man who done so much to his family. He has to beat him if it means finally the peace. And this was a lot of, well, Jojo flying around a little bit, and Dio, being more, you can tell Dio was eating the scenery with his lines. Like, he was how he taunted, see how he acted. Like, this is how you say how you sum up Dio. He sees himself as immortal. He sees himself as powerful, but slowly but surely, his power gets put to test. His own power gets shown that he's not as powerful when it's revealed that there are similarities between the world and the star. Also, Joseph gets his blood sucked and has almost a tearful farewell to Jotaro, but Jotaro does save him later on. But I'll get that. And finally, Jotaro defeat him, and even having a steamroller, which I was waiting for that steamroller to come in, and I'm so happy to see it. Like, when is that steamroller coming? Do I keep on seeing? And it comes in him literally taking one, punching it down onto Jotaro, while Jotaro is punching it back up. But then he basically stopped to kill Jotaro by crushing him. Jotaro had also was able to get the better of him, and of course, Dio, thanks to Jotaro learning that what he can do with stopping hearts, starting hearts, he is able to save his grandfather's life and saying the curse was lifted. Also, we get Holly, who turns up a few times in this arc. She's a lot older. Sorry, she's not as beautiful as she was. She's that old. She has that old lady look. Sorry, I know. And even though she acts like a ditz, she does slowly realize that there is something wrong. So Dio is defeated. The curse that the Joestar family has been put to rest, and everything will go back to normal. With Iggy Kakuin and Abdul giving them the help they need to get this far. Jotaro, Joseph, and Polnareff go separate ways. And that ends part 3, which originally was going to be the end of Jojo's adventure. That part. Because again, the whole story was all about Dio, the build up to Dio, how it all started. Like, this whole build up to Dio, how it all started. And it was originally going to end there. But, of course, we have 9 parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We got part 6, so we'll have our second half of that part soon. And we're here now because of it. So, I rambled on very long, so I guess I should wrap this video up. My final thoughts: do not skip part 1 and 2. Go and make sure you watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure part 3 afterwards. It's very good, it's flawed like any story. I really enjoyed the music, I really enjoyed the battles, I enjoyed the characters. I think that some characters didn't get a lot of development, like maybe Iggy and I guess Kakuin, but characters like Polnareff and Abdul a little bit, and Jotaro gets a lot of development. You can see him change a little bit. Like, he is starting to change, but he's still himself, and you see a lot of growth in him. You know, Joseph shows that even though he doesn't have like a strength like Stan, his Stan is very useful. So, my next video will obviously be Diamond Unbreakable. Expect that in maybe a couple of months. I will be taking my time with this season again. So you might want to see another review for a little while. But I really enjoyed this season. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I got to see the story to the end. I'm glad I got the answer to a lot of things. And really, I enjoyed this as my favorite series. Like, I'm glad I got to finally give JoJo's Bizarre Adventure a chance. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. And after that, I don't know what I'll do once I finally cut the Stone Ocean. It'll be a while before I do that. So, I guess I should end. I feel like there's one way to end this, and that would be this. And that would be, where can you watch this season? Okay, so obviously you have Crunchyroll, Hulu, Funimation. That are all the places you can watch it. All the first 3 parts are on Funimation, which we all migrate to Crunchyroll. All 5 parts are found on Crunchyroll, and all 5 parts are found on Hulu. and you can find Stone Ocean on Netflix. So, and you can find all 6 parts on Netflix anyway. So, this is me, OP Roxas 99. See you next time. Bye!